Luke Skywalker meditating on his rocky island retreat, dragons soaring over the Westeros coast, John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara falling in love against a background of technicolor green fields. One place that links these unforgettable images? The island of Ireland. Maybe it's the drama of the landscapes or the heart and soul of the music that attracts location scouts. When soaring sea cliffs lashed by wind and rain were required for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, there was no more fitting location than the cliffs of Moher, a highlight of the wild Atlantic Way. Meanwhile, anyone who's seen those jagged fingers of rock erupting from the ocean will understand why Lucasfilm decided Skellig Michael was the perfect place for a Jedi Knight to take refuge. So if you're a film fan, the island of Ireland is ready when you are. It's time to book now. Visit Ireland.com and press the green button to start your Irish adventure.
Hello there and welcome back to the Irish Film London podcast. I'm Caoimhe O'Malley, subbing in for Niamh Brannigan. During the week I got to speak to Philip Doherty, writer and director of Redemption of a Rogue. I chatted to them about what it's been like experiencing their films back on the big screens, releasing films during a pandemic, and lots more. I hope you enjoy.
And my name is Jerry Maguire, and while Caoimhe was catching up with Philo, I went down to the Bertha Dock House on Saturday and I caught the Q&A session with Vivienne Dick after we screened her documentary New York Our Time. Vivienne did a Q&A with Michelle Diegnan, which was really interesting, and we've included that here almost in its entirety. I wanted to jump in at this stage as well and let people know that this is the last of our kind of festival dispatches from Irish Film Festival London 2021. We've made a few additional recordings from just like interviews that we caught with people and Q&A recordings and stuff like that, which we hope to release in the weeks and months to come. But while we kind of took a little break from the podcast to focus on delivering the festival, and then did a few sort of daily podcasts during the festival to keep people up to speed with what was going on, we're now in that post-festival mode, which is like, if you've ever done a film festival or worked on a film festival or been a part of like attending a film festival, it's a fairly intense time. And we're now in the adrenaline lull, the adrenaline lull that comes after a festival delivery period. So we've stepped back a little bit, and we've went down a gear. So that's where we're at now at IFL. We're gonna probably come back to the podcast after this episode in the new year, and we'll have a new set of interviews, new set of content of all kinds, really, to talk to you about and to keep you informed about the Irish film world. But that's going to be in the new year. So enjoy this last sort of festival dispatch. Have a good December, everybody, and we'll see you in the new year. And thanks for being a supporter of Irish Film London and the work that we do. If you do want to continue supporting us, it's worth me saying this now before we get into the interviews, because I don't think we're going to really have a chance in the middle of them the way that they're laid out. We are a not-for-profit organisation. Irish Film London presents multiple film festivals and screening events all year round in London and online through our online player channel called Irish Film From Home. You can go to irishfilmlondon.com and find out all the information about us. You can go to @irishfilmlondon on all your social media channels, and if you can go and give us a like or a subscribe or whatever it is that you do on your channels, comment or retweet or whatever, that all helps to help people get the word out about what we do. The funding that we get is generous from the funding organizations that we get it from, and we're really thankful for that, but it's limited. So we'd love any bit of help that you can give us, and just doing like a little like or a share or something is a bit of a help. As well as that, we have our membership scheme, and our festival members, which are called Festival Friends and Festival Champions, they get loads more out of what they do, out of what we do. So consider becoming a member and joining joining the family, I guess. We're going to be back with more events in the new year as well. We're looking forward to doing some screenings around St. Bridget's at the end of January. We're already thinking about what we're doing for the St. Patrick's Film Festival in central London. We're hopeful that we can do something in Trafalgar Square again this year with that big video screen that's in the front of Trafalgar Square. So that hasn't been there since 2019 now, because the March 2021 got sort of cancelled at the last minute because of, you know, that whole COVID thing. So yeah, look out for some news on that as well. And yeah, that's it. Enjoy the interviews. Thanks very much.
I'm here with Philip Doherty, who is the director and writer of Redemption of a Rogue. Philip, so much congratulations to you for the film. I watched it when it was released in Galway Film Festival. That was last year, and I was just blown away by the world, the style, the writing, everything to do with it. It won Best Irish Feature in Galway Film Festival, and I guess it's been an interesting time because it was released and premiered during our 2020 pandemic. So a lot of, I guess, the success that you received was enjoyed from your home or through a Zoom screen. So I know you had a release at home. What's it been like actually being able to enjoy it now, like with audiences and on a big screen? Has it been enjoyable?
Oh yeah, it's been incredible to see it on the big screen with other people around you. It shouldn't be a surreal experience, but it actually became one. So yeah, we won the Film Fla, and it has been at a number of festivals around the world, but I've been in my kitchen for all of that. So it's like, how did the Glasgow Film Festival go? I don't know, I was in my kitchen, but it seemed to be good. So to have it out there with live people, it's been brilliant. I didn't think it was going to happen, and I think a lot of other films are made or out around the same time as me just went straight to on demand, but we held firm. We wanted that experience of seeing it on the big screen, and I've seen the film thousands of times, but to see it in the Lighthouse on that big screen was just an amazing experience. Like, it really was. Like, just, you could see the whole production design, and my brother did production design, Joe Doherty, and Bershey's photography, and above all, Aaron Monaghan's performance. Just mesmerising to see it on that scale.
100%, and like the whole, I mean, it led from you, but the whole cast, such a great ensemble, such amazing themes, quite dark themes, quite Irish themes, I would say, like the darkness of humour, really. Has there been any surprises through reactions to it? Have you got a lot of people coming up saying interesting things, or after the screenings, have you just enjoyed having people laugh and react in the cinema?
Yeah, just so beautiful feeling to hear people laughing, at the film. It went to Caoimhe in Greece, to the international festival there, and that was the first time I actually saw it. It was a different experience because it was the first time I saw it with other people in Greece, and it was a nighttime screening on the beach on a full moon night. We're all kind of in these sort of beanbag things watching the film, so it was a very unusual, beautiful, magical experience. But they were laughing so hard at the black comedy, the Irish black comedy, even GAA gags they were laughing at. So hopefully the support humour, I guess, transcended to Greece. But to feel people laughing at this rural film set in my hometown, in my home county, to land on a beach in Greece kind of was a wonderful experience and surprising as well. But overall, I mean, people that I haven't been in touch with since primary school have been getting in touch with me. It's kind of like an old-fashioned wedding where people have come out of the woodwork to congratulate you, and that's been just a wonderful experience, and that people have connected with it, and people are really proud of it from Cavan as well, because it's been a huge community effort. I don't know, I'm sure there's been lots of negative things about it, but they haven't got in touch with me directly, but it's been really a wonderful, encouraging and inspiring experience to have people get in touch with you and talk about how much it connected with them and how much they got the film.
That's amazing, and so it just shows you that actually, comedy and humour, and we can think something is very Irish, but then you bring it to a different audience and it connects still with them. So there is a universal kind of connection within humour, and maybe some of the themes that you were working on. But I guess you mentioned Cavan, and so curious about, you know, the process of filming, because you're a Cavan man. There was another Cavan man as the lead actor, and a lot of Cavan actors I spotted. You know, the film's about Jimmy, prodigal son returning. Was there a little bit of you know, life imitating art, or how did you find shooting in your hometown? Was it enjoyable?
Yeah, well, I couldn't have done it anywhere else in the world for the money we had. We had a tiny amount of money, but amazing people working on it. So it was a lot of our first feature film. It was like most of the crew, but the communities of Swanland Bar and Cavantown really rode in behind us and helping us with the locations and helping us with the catering and just giving everything they could. So it was, even though we had a really minuscule amount of money, I don't think we could have pulled off something as ambitious as this anywhere else in the world, because of the community, collective, artistic spirit that kind of helped us pull it off. But yeah, life imitating art. I mean, I guess it's a fairly personal film. It's set in a world that I grew up in, that Cavan wit that's so droll and dark. It's very and sardonic. It's quite famous, and I wanted to kind of express that and show the world that with all these sort of larger than life characters that I grew up in and suffered through and secretly love as well.
That's amazing, and it really does show. I mean, it is a whole world there, and I was actually really struck by the music, you know, the blues music, and I thought to myself, how have I not realised before? But I think Cavan and blues music really, like, it's a good fit, you know what I mean? I don't know what it is, but I wondered, with the music sense of things, I'm curious, when writers are writing, was that the type of thing, the soundtrack, the type of thing you heard in your head as you were writing, or was it something that kind of came a bit later?
No, it was very early on. The blues, maybe because Cavan wear blue football jerseys, I don't know. It's but Cavan is famous for its music and its musicians, and famous for its trad music as well, but it's always had a kind of blues bands in the 60s and 70s, and I don't know, and the dour sort of wet biblical rain kind of felt the kind of tone and mood of the film. But yeah, I listened to music while writing a lot of the script, certainly a lot of the more visual parts of it, and I was listening to a lot of Mississippi blues and Delta blues and a lot of Tom Waits, and that helped me kind of visualize a lot of the scenes and that downbeat tone as well. And I worked quite closely with the composer Robbie Perry, who've worked on a lot of theatre productions previously. He was on board from the very beginning, you know, from idea stage. So, you know, I was reading early drafts to him, and so that was all happening from the very kernel of the idea. That was hugely important. The original title of it was Redemption of a Rogue, a blues opera.
Amazing.
But we got rid of the blues opera. Too wordy.
Well, I think you feel like you're in a blues opera when you're watching it, but it's so fitting and it's so right. And I can't let you go without asking you the question about the rain. I mean, visually so beautiful, so striking, as a dramatic device, like so smart, so clever. But I'd imagine the technicalities of filming with that much rain was challenging.
Yeah, it was hugely challenging. But I think this is a testament to the ridiculously talented people that were working on the film. So to get a rain machine, we priced it, I think for 2 days, it would have blown our entire budget. So it's not like we could do the film without rain. The entire texture of the film is wet. So, but we had a team that were able to invent their own rain machines, that worked with local plumbing companies. The fire service in Cavan gave us access to the water mains in the villages, and people just built these rain machines, these huge, massive shower heads that covered the whole street. And that's how we're able to pull it off, by people thinking on their feet, being inventive and being imaginative and finding a way. So yeah, it's credit to all those people. But yeah, it does look absolutely beautiful, and kind of helps sort of act as a symbol for the mood of the film.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It is an incredible film, and it's just so creative, it's so visual, it's so fun to just watch that kind of such a quirky, if I'm allowed to say that, world be brought to life on screen, and something we don't see very often. So I know everyone's going to be really excited to see it in the festival this week. It's going to be on Sunday. So thank you, Philip, so much for chatting to me.
Thank you very much, Caoimhe. Delighted. Thank you very much.
So that's Philip Doherty speaking to Caoimhe on Friday last, actually. Then on Saturday, I caught up with Michelle Diegnan as she spoke to Vivienne Dick. So we've recorded this. The Q&A for this is recorded. It's a slightly different. There's a slightly different tonality to the recording because it's recorded in a slightly different way. But Michelle started by talking to Vivienne about the sort of alien quality to Manhattan that appears in her documentary New York Our Time. So we pick up the Q&A from that point.
I'm thinking about its cinematic qualities. I was really struck and watching it again. The opening section of the film and that motif is revisited throughout the film. The beautiful setting of Manhattan almost as an alien universe. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how that came about, or did that come out in the editing process?
That was in my mind. That was definitely planned. You're talking to people and you have these interviews, you're in people's apartments, etc. And I used this going up the stairs as a kind of a transition thing as well. And I thought that Manhattan is so busy and there's so much stuff, and there's so many, it's just hard to kind of almost see, so I thought and also I wanted to say something with these abstract kind of buildings, and the orange filter to make it more abstract so that it starts to say something else. It's something about, it's something about time, and it could be, what time is this? Because you look at some of the older buildings that were built in the 20s and 30s, and some of them are extraordinary. They look like something from Egypt, Babylon. Very imaginary kind of buildings that you'd have in a science fiction movie. So, and then the new buildings are something else again. The ones that are in the Hudson Yards around there, they're very, glass reflectant. They're very hard. They're very sharp. And no people at all. You can't see through the glass. So. Of course, I deliberately shot it so you couldn't see people for the most part. But yeah, I was trying to bring in the idea, especially at the end, I was trying to begin the idea of New York has such an extraordinary history all back through the centuries since it was built, and such a vibrant place with all these people arriving from other places. And the period I was there in the late 70s it's just like this slice of time. So the film is like two slices of time, just that period and now. And I'm with those shots at the end, I'm trying to give the idea of where is all this going? Where is the city going? Where are we going in this, in this world, really? Because in a way, you could look at those buildings and you could say to yourself, well, that could be like Beijing or something. Maybe it's not, you wouldn't know, So that idea, expanding it out a bit, I really wanted to get that sense of how, I suppose you could say the film is like an ethnographic study of my community when I was there. It's a bit like that, and I'm there in it, and it's from the inside. And, I wanted to have the sense of our time on the planet is very short. It just goes by. Look at us now, It's just crazy, and I wanted to evoke the energy that was there in the time I was there, with the archive, with the music and everything, to kind of give you a sense of it really was an energetic sort of creative time. It's not. I didn't want it to be a nostalgic thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it really captured that, and also a sense of continuity through some of the people you interview towards the end. The woman who hangs out at the skate park, and Zoe, who talks about her relationship to community filtered through social media and the kind of impact that's had in her life. But it's interesting what you're saying there about slices in time, because I was thinking about the title, of course, Our Time, and everyone who's in New York is still there. It's still everybody's time, but there is a sense, isn't there, where youth, when we talk about youth in a place, that's our period. We'll refer to maybe our teenage years or our 20s as, that was my time, that was my scene. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that thing about aging, really, and in relation to thinking about your time in a place.
There's nothing, I think that I don't know really what to say. I mean, you know, I don't have any wish to be young again, you know. I think the world we're living in now, it's changing rapidly, and it's things are kind of much more serious in some ways in terms of what we're going to do to survive, you know, more in every way, you know, in terms of like the way capitalism has become so voracious and the way global warming is affecting, you know, it's very obvious now. It's not like there's no getting away from it, you know. So we're going to have to make some decisions, you know what I mean, about what kind of world we want to live in. That idea is implied there, sort of thing. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to survive forever. Nobody is. So what, you know.
I think what's very kind of not just enlightening but inspiring about your time, that time, our time, is well, many things, but specifically I think about you guys finding this space, this communal space within an actual space that others might have seen as abject, you know, that wasn't a place that was completely neglected, derelict, there's no money, and yet something so creative, so energetic, so forward-thinking, so playful came out of it.
Well, I know, but people at that time, you know, in the 70s were living in quite, you know, rough squats here as well. I mean, it wasn't just in America, you know, because I lived here too, you know, when I moved back. I mean, New York, I suppose, I mean, at that time it was very special in the sense that the city was completely broke and the middle classes had moved out and rents were very low. So you could live for next to nothing and you could have a small job and survive. And there was an incredible energy, an incredible sort of thing going on, particularly with music, but it was also with theatre, with dance, with performance art, with art. It's very alive. And all different kinds of music. There was jazz, there was downtown, all sorts. And also there was a lot of people that were listening at that time to older music from the 60s because you could get all these secondhand, everyone wore everything secondhand, everything was recycled, furniture, clothes, get all these records on the street. So I was like listening to all this music that I'd sort of heard some of, but, you know, that was kind of very important, I think, and that some of that music, like early, or say, just name one song, I don't know, like people like Surf, Duane Eddy, or Link Ray, or Question Mark and the Mysterians, because I used that song in one of my films, of course, with no clearance, but I haven't in one of any early films. There's no such thing as clearance then, in our world. Yeah, that music had an influence on punk sounds, you know, the kind of rawness of it, you know, and, yeah, So there was music, and of course I was listening. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, the music had a very was very important because it was very much do-it-yourself. People weren't trained necessarily in how to play instruments, and we kind of took off from that in terms of making films because I didn't have training in how to make films. I just did it in a very low way, you know, doing the editing at home on my kitchen table, you know, little thing, you know, very small camera. But it was fantastic because we were able to show the films, and the other people, I found another group of people who were also making these films, just like sticking them together with tape, you know, to make, and they had sound. The great thing was these films had sound. Super 8 with a soundtrack, a little magnetic track along the edge of the film, which these films are still played today, and some of the sound is fantastic. You know, it's kind of rough, but it's kind of great because it's rough, because all these other sounds from the street and sirens and people calling out come into it. You know, it's not filtered, so it's quite alive. It sounds alive. It sounds much more alive than the 16mm films that I heard at the time. Very fresh or something. And of course, film, Super 8 film, is so tiny. Each frame, you know, the size of your little finger, is survives. You know, it doesn't turn into snow like video does. You know. So it really is great material.
Yeah, and I think actually you talk about sound there, you know, your affinity with and close listening, your sense of rhythm really does come across immediately in the film. Again, to think back to the opening sequence, how the sounds of the cities, you know, build and build to become almost a track, and then there's sequences where we've got kind of intense periods of sound or music, and everything just drops.
Yeah, well, Martin Wheeler composed the music for this film, the new music, and also would have done a lot of the wild track. I mean, there was some recording sound, but he did other sounds off the street, and he specializes in manipulating wild tracks so that you can't tell sometimes if it's music or if it's wild track. There's that going on in some parts of the film. Yeah.
I'd like to open up for questions in the audience if anyone has one. Rachel?
Hi. I'll just. Can I take? No, it's all right. I won't. Yeah, I was just intrigued by Lydia Lunch's appearance at the end because, like in your early films, she's such a powerful presence, and she's a really powerful presence here. But she's dealt with very differently to all the other people in your milieu, and I just wondered, was that pragmatic or was that a kind of aesthetic decision, or both?
And a decision to do with. I mean, Lydia isn't the kind of one just to hang out like that. She sort of keeps herself apart from, she's particular way of hanging out with people, and she wouldn't, she didn't want to do it. Anyway, I knew it wouldn't. Never even asked her. I thought, now how will Lydia be in this film if I can persuade her to be in it? It has to be something a bit different, So I decided maybe it should be some kind of performance, which she does a lot of, just that kind of political talks and things, and talks and feminism. So she had some text. She agreed to do it. She was hard to catch because she's on tour a lot. She really was tired when she arrived there that day, just back from Europe. So I was lucky to catch her just in that week, Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. She is really powerful. She's amazing, I think.
So in relation to that, actually, I'd like to pick up on something we were talking about earlier about how a lot of the characters in the film, of course, featured in your earlier work, but this the structure of the documentary, of course, is quite different in relation to how you filmed with them. And I wonder, would you say a bit about that, because I know it was quite collaborative in some ways, what happened in this piece?
Yeah, well, it is a little bit more like it's a kind of experimental type documentary, but it's obviously made to maybe have a wider reach of an audience, right? So yeah, I was kind of concerned not to make something too conventional, because it actually started out being a bit sort of stiff and conventional at the start, and Declan was saying to me, "Are you sure you want to do this?" So he was great, and I know him from
your camera.
Yeah. I know him from many years ago. He used to live in Ireland, and we used to work together before we started doing camera work for films. So I was very lucky to that he did that, Plus he knew all my old work, so that helped. He wanted to create a style that matched the way I film, which he's great at handheld stuff. Yeah. So what was the question? What did I say?
You did.
No. Okay.
No. Well, in relation to, I suppose, the conversations around with people in the film, about, let's say, I suppose, the kind of formality of the interview, but then you make it informal because you're in their space, your shoes are off, there's a lot of walking around in domestic spaces, and I wonder how much was, just came about organically, how much
it was organically. It was Declan we just have a break for coffee and Declan would be still shooting, and it was great. We decided if that happened we would do that, because just having people sitting down talking, me, and I'm kind of keeping slightly out of it anyway, just don't see very much of me, but we figured out as we went along how to do it, and I mean, we had conversations on Skype about what we might talk about in advance, and it wasn't like, well, we're going to talk about this and this and this, but something, maybe a little bit of that, that maybe bring it into it, but it was people brought it in their own way, in their own time, or they didn't, because, say, take Felice talking about her parents and them going to the Philippines. That was her. She wanted to bring that story into the film,
That's wonderful, yeah.
So there were things like that,
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it was really important you included that there was a real sense of there's so many histories and people were bringing to the community. You know, it was like all of the 20th century was in there from the Western world, all over Europe, you know, the States, loads of life experiences that people brought to their relationships with each other. Anyway, before I keep talking, anyone else have a question? There's a microphone there, so everyone can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just there from what you said at the end about the one of the people in it talking about her parents in the Philippines, and then sort of linking that back to an earlier part of the film where somebody said, we come to New York and we can be who we want to be. We can be anonymous. And, you know, coming from small towns, etc., you know, I just thought that contrast was really good because it was almost like people kind of easing themselves into be. I mean, I know this is not in reality, but it's a nice contrast. People easing themselves into revealing themselves and revealing their history after having said, we come here as anonymous people. And I suppose that was connected with the linkage that you had with all of them as friends. There was a tremendous vibrancy there. It was really good.
They were very generous. There was a great trust there with me, you know, with them talking to me, and yeah.
Eddie, and congratulations and Congratulations on both the movie. It was brilliant, really inspirational, and your award. I lived in New York from the mid-70s until the early 90s, but I was immersed in the AIDS crisis in the 80s. But the women you brought to us here, I mean, they're the kind of women I would love to have had as my teachers in the convent in Ennis, where I come from. I mean, my gosh, like, these women are, you know, made of steel in the very best sense of the word. I mean, I don't know how you found them. I mean, you're so blessed to have had such friends. I presume they're all still alive. I would want them to talk to me about life, about death, about love, about freedom. I just want to thank you and congratulate you for bringing them into our lives and giving us the gift of yours and their freedom.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Up there in the middle. Great.
Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I was struck by something you said about there were other places like this, like London in the 70s and 80s. And I've been in New York, and I've lived in London in squats and co-ops and things. And I'm just sort of wondering, what about now? Do you think, because it was a very productive time, and it was cheap, and people could live. How do you think something parallel to that is happening now, and where and how? Just your thoughts on that, because so seeing New York, it's so expensive now, and London is so expensive now. This area we're in now, you know, what was really cheap, you know, in the 70s, nobody wanted to live here, even later than that. So I'm just wondering about then and now, and
I think the
creativity.
things have become much more difficult in terms of just living your life, your daily life. We have forced to work much more. We spend so much more time sitting in front of the computer for hours. I spend hours in the computer every day. You know, I mean, just because you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to pay bills and whatever you're doing. And you start to think, my God, I'm becoming a slave to this machine, you know. So, and more on screens as well. So I think we really have to watch out how we're living. You know, we need a break from that. For otherwise we'll just go crazy, you know. But I also think that the way things are designed is that, I mean, as we know, the world's become much more unequal. You know, it's like very, very wealthy people and much people hardly getting paid anything at all, and no contracts and everything else. That's the kind of world we're in now, with Amazon, those kind of companies. And if there are places that we can go and live, I'm sure there are, but it'd be far away from here. I mean, I think Berlin for a while might have been a place before it's kind of changed now, I think, and it's more like here, but I don't know exactly where, but maybe Istanbul. I don't really know. But I'm sure there are places in Africa or somewhere.
Well, it's
Hello. Hello, Vivienne. In the back. Hi. I really enjoyed your film. And I wanted to ask you, how do you see, as far as your audience in America, here in England and in France, the response from the people as far as you showing this film?
Yeah, well, I don't really know yet, Lamonte, because it hasn't been shown very much, I mean, actually, it's the festival thing is crazy. You need to know people in the festivals to get into the festivals, and I don't know these people, and they take people's money, and it's actually quite a scandal because they select almost everything that they show in these festivals. It seems like to me, and they take all these submissions from people and don't even get back to you to say like, sorry, we're not able to take. They don't even do that. They just take your money. So, but I think the film will get shown somewhere in its own way. It will. I think this is a film that has a life. So it will get shown. Just hope there's somebody here maybe. Give me a scoop. Yeah, I would like to get it. I think it will. But the festival thing, I tell you, I wouldn't bother unless you know somebody who's selecting. I wouldn't bother with the festival.
We have never met before this evening. It's true. Hand up at the back.
I won't say nothing about festivals.
No.
I wanted to. I wanted to ask you about. I'm thinking about the type of spaces that people inhabit within the film. They're places which are. I mean, in the time when you lived there previously, the spaces are often, they're run down or they're squats, and a lot of the times there's rooftop spaces, and there are things which are sort of away from the hubbub of the city. And I think the way that you deliberately not shot the street level, like the people in the city, a lot of times, is really interesting. And so it's made me think about how the conditions that we find ourselves in sometimes are responsible for bursts of creativity. And I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
The conditions that are around us, you mean?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? The condition that how does that impact on whether there's going to be activity in terms of creativity? Is that what you mean? Something like that?
Yeah.
And well, New York was conducive to. It was just a special time, really, and for those reasons that the main thing is that people have time off, because you didn't have to be working all the time to pay your rent the way people do now. The rents were very, very low, and you just could get by with this. Anyway, there were hardly any jobs. You could get by with a small job, and you'd have loads of time off to do other things. So you could explore what was happening, and there was lots of things happening. And you could start making things yourself, like whether it be music or whatever, you could get involved in other things. So we really do need to have time out, we can't be working all the time just to pay the bills, I mean, that's no way to be living. We need time to think, and just time to do nothing, it's important.
Which kind of takes us back to the title. Our time could be owning our own time. And what's really precious as well, I think what really comes across is the time and space to build relationships and to make play and creativity part of that relationship, to collaborate, and that's where something new happens. So I suppose in relation to Raid.
I won't be able to find my words, but it's something about, I think it's a really crucial, important thing about becoming a robot and becoming a robot for others, where you're not even being paid, but actually that's what's happening in our sort of system, where our time is being taken up, what we might believe is a kind of leisure, but actually we're sort of becoming robots, you know. So to me, it seemed that something in this film is opened up that's really special about something that is spoken about the figures your friends who you're talking about the time. I'm just saying what I think everybody's experienced here, yeah, that it's very key because it was a formative time and developing a creativity and a confidence that they all talk about, the women talk about very clearly, that confidence about the height of the stage, and that you said to me, you know, of not necessarily knowing how to play something or whatever, but them to do that, the freedom for that's such a gift that can stay with you, to sort of developing a confidence and just, yeah, capacities, so creativity, yeah. So just to say that really, and I think that's really special, and you've highlighted it there as a possibility, and it's crucial for where we are now, as I'm saying, about how we're, without unwittingly being employed as robots for corporations.
Hi Vivienne, brilliant, thank you, really good. I think also you touch on that moment that obviously to a certain extent we share, those of us at a certain age, that there was no commodification of work in the same way. The art market was very different, and we had our own audiences. We had a politics. We had an idea that actually we could change things, we could change the world. And I think the text of the film really captures that moment. And obviously there are all these variables that feed into that moment, which is, you know, being able to find places that were really cheap, not having to work 24/7, etc., etc., and the importance of friendship and community networks, and the links with community. And obviously we know just from the London scene, it's very hard now because communities are disappearing because of globalisation, increased capitalism. So I think the film really touches on those very crucial moments, as well as being able not to be dystopian, because it really does also capture the possibilities.
I'm sorry, I've got to intervene here, sorry. I mean, I think all of that is true, but I think we really need to remember that young people, you know, have their life, it's their time now, and that they do find times and ways to make art or to make their life in the way that they make it. And like they, you know, I mean, we had this the other night. I think that I don't know how it helps young people to be told things were like much better then, or we had all this time then. And I think what was great about the film is it's not nostalgic. You know, it talks about that moment, but it doesn't talk about, you know, but it also involves young people talking about their moment as well. And I think that it's really important to remember that, you know, rather than talking, because I mean, I remember in the 80s we didn't feel that we were blessed. You know, there weren't any jobs. There weren't, you know, there were. So I don't know whether any time is that kind of, you know, golden time. You know, exactly. It isn't, except for those that, you know, have lots of money and have all those things. But for most ordinary people, they have to make their life in their time however they can. And that's exactly what that, you know, your generation did. And that's what this young people now are doing, you know.
Yeah, as you said, the film, Vivienne very much finds, you know, we end it to young people who are very definitely, you know, finding those edges, those spaces, those cracks, if you like, or those alternative ways of relating to community, themselves, the world, that really give you hope, you know. And we know, as so many of us here, artists and creatives, that we all do that on a daily basis. You have to, you find ways around things, and you can do that in a metropolis, even something that seems so corporate. I'm afraid we have to wrap up now. Let's continue the conversation in the bar. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much, Vivienne, again for coming over. I know you're very busy, so we're really, really very, very grateful you made it over for the screening and the Q&A. And everyone would like to give Vivienne a big send off.